Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lipedema's. I'm going to say that was not enjoyable. I got to start over. Welcome to Lipedema Wellness Conversations with Gail. That's me and friends.
Oh, and I'm
So
the friend.
you're
Yay.
the friend, Carrie. You're the friend. Um, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking for me to get started, and sometimes it feels like Carrie and I, or whoever my friend is, that we're sitting here just talking to each other, and that's pretty much what it is. And so if you come in um, to our broadcast, our live broadcast, please make sure that you let us know where you're coming from. I see we have someone from Michigan. It's always a little it feels, I mean, I've done a lot of recordings without an audience. I love having an audience. I love talking to people. Nobody can tell that. But one of my favorite people to talk to of all times is Carrie Reedy. Carrie comes to us from Perth, Australia, and so it's very early in the morning for her.
Oh
Um,
no, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. This is
oh,
actually a very civil time to be chatting.
I guess it is.
Yeah.
I was expecting you to say, "Yeah, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, gal." My brain doesn't wrap around, time zones very well, especially when, here in the United States, we bounce around on changes like standard
Mm.
time and daylight savings time, and some people, Arizona's on Arizona time at all times and those sorts of things. So I always get a little tangled up. And but anyway, so Carrie's here bright and early from Perth, Australia. Carrie is a nutritionist, and she has been working with Lipedema Simplified for about a year. Well, yeah, just over a
Yeah,
year.
probably more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to believe, all of 2022, some of 2023, and a little bit of 2021, so she's here in the 20s, she's 20 something. Um, she has she has a wonderful, nutritionist practice, coaching
Mhm.
practice, and she has so much information to share with us. And I'm talking to you, Carrie, as though you're like as though you're not here. And I'm sorry, but that's kind of the way these things work. So before we get started, and I'm going to have Carrie talk about herself, we have a Facebook user from Michigan. Hello. We have Marilee from the Pacific Northwest of the United States. She comes from Washington. Mary Woods is coming to us from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Cheryl Edwards was from Wisconsin also. And then, of course, Sue is coming to us from Florida. So, all over the United States, we have guests and audience members. And hopefully, if you might have an Australian or two, they show up once in a while. We get people from Europe, and we get people from all over the world.
Mm.
Um, I do wanna make sure that everybody knows this is gonna be a fairly short, fairly short. How about relatively short? I can very easily go for an hour, hour and a half, and never take a breath and just keep talking, but I do have a hard stop today, and so we're gonna try to get started. So, Carrie, welcome to our show today, and, when we started, we said, "Hey, what are we gonna talk about?" And you said something very interesting. You said
Mm.
something about how do you start and where should you be at this moment in your health journey? Would you like to elaborate on that?
Oh, I guess when I was thinking about chatting with you today, I was thinking about, if you're new to lipedema or lymphedema or any of these types of diagnoses, it's overwhelming. Like it really can be just you start to hear things and people say you need to do this and this and this and this and this. And, it's very easy to get to that point where you sort of throw your hands up in the air and go, way too hard, can't do any of it. And so I always think we need to kind of take a bit of a systematic approach and just start one thing at a time. And if you said to me, where do you start? As a nutritionist, I think you would expect me to say, it's all about food. It's all about diet. But I would actually say to you, we've got to get some fundamentals into place first. Certainly looking at the food and the role that it plays is really important because food nourishes our body, it nourishes our cells, it impacts all of these biochemical processes. But it's not the only thing. It's and sometimes the place to start isn't necessarily the logical place, but it's thinking about those key pillars of health, like how well am I sleeping?
Oh, yeah.
What's going on with my sleep? Is my body able to do its healing and repair work during the night time when it's meant to? One of the things that happened over the last couple of years, we know that a lot of people's routines were sort of turned upside down. People started working more from home, and you know, work didn't start as early, so they were sleeping in, they were staying up all night, watching all sorts of interesting shows on Netflix and other things, and our whole world kind of shifted. And
Right.
so sleep got put sort of on the back burner, like I'll catch up later. And we really do need to think about sleep, and lots of reasons that people don't sleep well. It could be they can't get to sleep, they can't stay asleep. Hormones play a huge role, and especially for women postmenopausally, sleep becomes a little more elusive. And we also know lipedema tends to, have a bit of a day in the sun when hormones start playing around. So again, it's, chicken or the egg. If we're not sleeping well, what's that doing to our hormones? What's that doing? So, I talk to people and say we've got to look at sleep, consider things that we can do to improve sleep. We've got to look at our stress level.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
and and consider it. And sometimes jumping straight to a dietary intervention is very stressful for people.
Well,
If you're used to, grabbing takeaway or eating out every day, and I say, okay, let's start eating at home, let's start doing this, let's start doing that, that is a layer of stress. And what we want to do is not necessarily add more stress to our stress bucket, but try and lower that level of stress. Everything that I talk about in terms of these, the fundamental pillars of health, if we were a bucket, and let's face it, we don't want to be a bucket, but if we were a bucket,
I don't wanna be a bucket.
no, right? But if we were a bucket, not sleeping, being stressed, eating an inflammatory diet, all of these things that are inputs into the bucket, and ultimately the bucket overflows. What we
Right,
want to be doing is lowering down, some of these inputs into the bucket so we don't get this overflow effect. And so our body
right,
can manage. When the bucket's overflowing, our body's lost the capacity to manage what's going on. And
right.
that's where I see health complications kind of multiply when the body's lost its capacity. So, there's sleep, there's, learning to manage our stress. And, it'll be lovely if we could all just wave that magic wand, right? Like, okay, I'm not stressed anymore.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying is really interesting because I had a hard night. I've been traveling. I do a lot of traveling once a month or whatever, just out of fun. I don't know. I have to go somewhere, you know. And I got home on Sunday. We had a stressful event here at the house. I'm a mama. My kids are all in their 30s and 40s. And you know how Mama Bear and the three little bears in Goldilocks story, Mama comes home and someone's been sleeping in her bed. And
Oh, no.
I came home and someone had not only been sleeping in my bed, but there was still someone sleeping in my bed because my daughter was having some health issues. And so my other children went and got her and brought her home and put her in mama and daddy's bed, right? Which makes perfect sense. That's where she needed to be. But now that stress went whoosh, right, and up
Mm.
she's just fine, she's well, she's back home in her own bed, 23 miles away from here. She's 38, she's fine, she's good. But she was having some issues that she needed to be close to family with,
Mm.
and so her siblings could take care of her while mom and dad were gone, you know? So they took and so I had to go sleep in somebody else's bed. And I'd already been traveling, and now I'm not sleeping well because
Mm.
it's a different bed. I'm concerned about my offspring, right?
Mm.
I mean, a good
Your
mama
bucket is
bear,
fuller and
right?
fuller and fuller.
And I'm thinking, "What do I have to do tomorrow? Oh, I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this, and I've got this." and I had like me. We know, yes, we've already talked about yesterday, Monday in the United States. Was a very full schedule for those
Mm.
people who work with Lipedema Simplified. It was up to here. And my husband looked at me and said, let something go. You know,
Mm.
sleep in and let something go. So we do have to worry about those stress levels and how it affects our sleep, how it affects our health. I woke up in the morning, my hands were swollen.
Yes. And that's
Not
that
because
bucket overflowing
right.
that we start to get the symptoms because we don't have the
Mhm.
capacity to be, to be managing
Yeah.
those things. And in your circumstance, I mean, you wouldn't have had it any other way than have your daughter
Oh,
come,
no,
all of these sorts of
no.
things. And so that's what I mean. We can't just wave a magic wand, but some of those practices that you're so good at, that mindfulness, the deep breathing, those things that just calm down that stress response. We may not be able to change the circumstances, but we can positively impact our biochemistry
Right,
and the way that
right.
our biochemistry responds to those things. So get on your breathing practice.
No, I'm the when someone says, "So how do you start this?" I always say, 5 deep breaths. Well, you know what? I do that because I have to remember to do it myself.
Yes.
Always that doesn't come naturally. I
Mm.
have to remember, "Gail, take 5 deep breaths." By the
Well,
time you're done
culturally, it's not something that we're familiar with, and it's almost
no,
been put into that woo-woo category. So it's a little bit sort of tricky, right?
right,
To get started, but it's a great just everyday practice to take on board. And
yeah,
I tend to find that first thing when I wake up in the morning, last thing when I go to bed at night, it once you can kind of like hook it to certain things during the day, you can go,
right,
you know what, I'm awake, but I'm just going to spend a couple of minutes here just breathing, relaxing, kind of getting my head into the game for, okay, what's going on today?
yeah,
How am I going to tackle this in a calm, mindful kind of way? Can have some profound impacts. And so, there is managing our stress with things like that. In terms of fundamental pillars, we want to be moving our bodies. We know that's particularly difficult for some, especially with lipedema and lymphedema. But just whatever we can do, whatever ways that we can find to just move, because that helps stimulate that lymph flow, those sorts of things. And our bodies, we're not designed for the 21st century.
right,
Ancestrally, we moved our bodies a lot. I was just
right,
having a conversation with someone yesterday, and I was saying my grandmother once told me about what her week looked like, and she passed away a few years ago at 102. So she lived through a lot of changes in the 20th century, right? And it was a whole washing day. It was lifting things, it was moving things, it was doing lots. I walk into my laundry and I push a button.
exactly,
And there's a mismatch between what our bodies are, I guess, designed to do and capable to do and the world that we live in. Now, I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to having to spend a whole day doing my laundry, but I need to, in some ways, find some practices that can mimic that. And even
right,
if that's just every hour getting up and moving, even if it's going to get a drink of water and coming back, but not sitting for long, long periods of time.
right.
These things matter. Getting out in nature. I know it's really cold where you are in the US at the moment, but I'm in the middle of a glorious summer. And it's getting outside. It's getting
Yeah,
some sunshine. The way that ancestrally we used to live with that rhythm of the seasons and the rhythms of the day. We don't necessarily do that anymore. We live in houses that are climate controlled and our lives are, controlled to the nth degree. But I think there's something about thinking about some of those older or previous practices and trying to replicate them in a more modified sort of doable way. And
right,
then of course when we're getting all of those, what I would say, those fundamental type principles, connecting with people that connecting with people, I should just stop it right there rather than go on, but
right,
connection, sense of purpose, all of these things all play into our health. And of course, the food and the food choices matter, especially we know for lipedema and lymphedema that carbohydrates aren't our friend, but also it's very personalized to us as individuals what else is inflammatory for
right.
us. And so all of those things need to be considered. But what I say is don't do it all at one time. Don't
No.
try and take on everything. If that was my I probably, if you said to me, what is my one piece of advice for our community, is just do this step by step. There was a book written years ago, How to Eat an Elephant, which is a terrible thought because we don't want to eat elephants. But if you had to eat an elephant, the gist of the book was, it's one bite at a time.
Right.
And, it's about working out what your first one bite is and getting that one bite managed. And
Yes.
then once you feel like, okay, I've got this particular, aspect of my health under control, what next? I
Right.
see far too often people trying to do everything at once. And,
Yeah.
it's too hard.
Yeah, and I always think about, something that becomes really important to me, don't get derailed. So
Yes.
sometimes something might interfere with my morning routine, but there's a morning routine that I have that I've established and I've attached it to like each item inside that routine is attached to another one. I didn't build the routine all at the same time,
Yes.
right? It's
Yeah.
not this program where people are just throwing stuff at me and I'm like, "Yes, I must adopt this program." It all started basically by learning how to brush my teeth as a little girl, right?
Yeah.
And or washing my hands after going to the bathroom or, those tiny little things that we learned as children to where, I don't have to think about putting my socks on before I put my shoes on instead of after, right? We learn
Yeah.
everything is attached to another thing. And so, one of the things that I've learned for myself just this year was as I truly believe we get dressed in a certain fashion. So, not like fashion, but a certain manner. So
Hmm.
for me, you know, I will put my undies on at in a in an order, in a sequential manner,
Hmm.
right? Maybe I put my undies on before I put my bra on, or maybe I put my bra on and then my undies. You don't know. That's my special
And
secret.
maybe we don't want to know.
Well, or who wears underwear, maybe, maybe not, But the thing is I get dressed in a sequential manner that fits my life, right? So
Yeah.
started when I started wearing, arm compression, um, it was at first it was new. I would think, "Oh, am I gonna put my sleeves on before I put my bra on, or am I gonna put my bra on and then put my sleeves on?" And it was like the question of the century, right? And
Yes.
how am I going to wear sleeves all the time? Oh, my mind was blown. So I one day I come out of the bathroom, I'm ready to get dressed. I start my sequential getting my clothes on, right? And I reached over and I slid my arm in my sleeve without thinking about it because I know now, that I wear my sleeves in a certain way. And I slid my clothes on and I picked out a short sleeve because for me, it's easier to wear short sleeves over the sleeves than a long sleeve, and I got dressed and I thought to myself, "I did that automatically,"
Mm. It's
right?
become a habit, right? Rather than
And I attached it. I
mm.
do put my bra on before I put my sleeves on. Okay, if I'm wearing a bra that day. That's another story. We're
Yeah,
gonna talk about that.
for someone else.
That's another story for someone else to tell. Anyway, but, I realized I have connected my arm arm care to where to a routine I'd already established,
Mm. And I
right?
think that's a great example of when we start talking about all of these things in health, it's about just taking on one thing, doing it for a certain period of time until it becomes part of our routine,
Right.
and then we don't have to think about it anymore. For you, it's just every day. You get
Yeah.
up, you put on your arm sleeves. For others, it might be leg compression. It's just part of what they are. It seems like an insurmountable mountain at the beginning when we're trying to change a habit. But, the research, going back, in my early days studying nutrition, we talked about 21 days. I don't know whether there's been more updated
I
research, but
don't think
it was
so.
21 days of doing something, and it really does become part of your lifestyle. And so, it's not going to be jump to do everything all at once. Just get some of these fundamentals on board, and then look and say, what's the next step for me? What's the next step for me? And many people, you know, read online, join our community, and they're like, okay, I've got to start keto. But again, that can feel like a mountain to climb. It can feel, insurmountable initially. But when we talk to those same people 6 months later, they're like, don't even have to think about it.
Right.
I just know exactly what I'm doing. I have a routine. I know the sorts of foods that feel good to me, that my body feels like they work for me. And it's not hard, it's totally doable. But it's that initial kind of trying to bring a new habit into our lives that's really,
Right.
it's a
Right.
challenge because we're upsetting the status quo, right?
Right, and it can be a challenge, and speaking of 21 days, it's crazy because Carrie, you and Jill have developed pretty much a 21-day program, haven't you?
I hadn't kind of connected it to the 21 days, but yeah, we're doing some really, really exciting things in the lipedema community. We have introduced small group coaching, and so many people that come new to these conditions, they're like, okay, I've got to start doing keto. I've got to get my nutrition under control, and you really want to be working with some people that really understand this condition. There's many, 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 many experts out there about keto, but keto for lipedema, that's, there are some really subtle nuances that we need to be aware of. And we do want to do this in a non-overwhelming way. And we want
Right.
to do this in a way that looks at it in terms of what's unique about me and my condition? How do I adapt this to the condition? So we're just working with our first group. So between two coaches, we have 12 people, and we're introducing what keto is going to look like, how they're going to go about it. But what's the most exciting is we're there to answer people's questions. So
Right.
often you can, pay for some sort of online program or a meal plan, and you have all of these questions, but you don't have a resource to go to say, that doesn't work for me, or my family won't eat that, or that particular food freaks me out. And so it's been really fun. We're 2 weeks in, and we're having some really wonderful experiences. The people in the group are saying, yep, feeling really good about this. We don't necessarily say that you need to just start keto on day one. It's about learning and understanding what this is going to look like, thinking about how it's going to work for you, your lifestyle, your family, taking some baby steps. Maybe it's simply for the first week, cutting out the Coke,
Right.
or the other sort of soft drink. It could be, different steps for different people in the group. But there's something really nice about being in a group.
Right.
You kind of hear about other people's questions that you may not have thought of. You're in a group that's kind of going through the same experience, so there's some nice community there. And yeah, we're having lots of fun for
Oh,
sure.
cool. And I see here we have somebody, we can't see their name, it just says Facebook user, but it says love the group. So
Oh.
one of your I want to say founding members, but that's not really what it is. One of your charter members is
I just
here.
say one of my friends.
One of your friends is
Yeah.
here, and getting and loving the group.
Mm.
And because of that, we are looking at, and we can't do a lot of people at one time. We don't. It becomes unmanageable. Oh, it's Debbie Sharrow. Hi, Debbie.
Oh, hi, Debbie.
um, But, one of the things in a larger group, you don't get that close, intimate help, and so
Mm.
you and Jill have developed this program, which is going really well right now, and but there's gonna be people who wanna get in on this, that right now there's a wait list, because it runs for your 21 days or your 3 weeks, and then, there's gonna be another one starting,
Yeah.
um, after a week or so, you'll start another one, and so to get on the wait list, I'm gonna put this in the chat, so please go ahead, if you wanna get on the wait list, listeners, if you wanna get on the wait list, go ahead, check that out. It's the registration link, but, all you do is reach into that, or you can email Carrie,
Mm.
and she can tell you how to get there. If you've copied her address down, you can see it across the bottom. If you've copied her email address down, just, drop Carrie an email, because this has been really exciting. I know
Mm.
for me, one-on-one, sometimes I don't have the questions I need to ask, right? But someone else will mention something and I'll go, "Oh yeah, I want to know about that." But if I'm there one-on-one, I might forget a question, or maybe I don't even know. I don't have enough information to ask a question, right? But as I listen
Mm.
to others discuss it, so these small groups can be very, very um, impactful on your lives. And then you also get a camaraderie, and you have that involvement. So if anybody wants to check it out, either email Carrie, or click on the link that I added below. We're gonna Before we wrap up, there's a couple more things I want to talk about, Carrie, because this was fascinating about taking one small step at a time. But
Mm.
I want to say we at this moment have 26 audience members, and not a one of them has put has clicked a heart or a thumbs up. I'm watching. I can see at the top of my screen. It says 21 people, but nobody's giving me a thumbs up or a heart. Let me see if I can get some. I got a heart. Okay. You gotta love us. Come on, ladies and gentlemen. There's 3. Let's see how many we can get. A heart or a thumbs up. Anyway, click it. And then make sure that if you haven't subscribed to us, please make sure that you subscribe so you can get notifications. Um, so yeah, thanks, Jennifer. We love giving you guys resources. Yay, 7. There's something else I want to talk to you about. It's going to be something that I start here in the next month or so. Um, I'm calling it the mailbox, or the mailbag, I guess is what I really am calling it. Don't mind me. Um, and what I'm going to do is, if we have um, if we have time during our broadcasts, I am going to do something called mailbag. So from now on, I know this sounds crazy. From now on, if you have a question, if you have a comment, just during your day, make sure that you send me an email with the subject line. I'm going to put this in the chat, with the subject of mailbag. I know that sounds so hokey, but that's what I want you to do. Put mailbag as subject line, and send me something, and I might read it on air. I mean, they do this on things like other podcasts and things like that, and then maybe I'll read your letter. Um, we do have so as you see, it says subject mailbag, Gail at Lipedema Simplified .org. That's my email. We do have someone here. I want to do this. It says, I've only been in this F book group Facebook group a day or two, and I'm unsure what this is all about, but it sounds great. And I'm thinking that you're talking about coaching. And seriously, if you want any small group coaching, personal coaching, one-on-one, or information not only about your nutrition, but um, possibly other things about lipedema. Carrie knows a lot about lipedema. Like I say, she's been working with us for about a year and a half. Jill, who is also running that, they know a lot about what's going on with lipedema. So please make sure that you reach out to Carrie. Click on that link, get registered or get on the wait list for the nutrition, lipedema nutrition, I guess you call it nutrition for lipedema. There we go. And okay, so wanting to know how to go to the mailbag. So basically, what you do is you write me an email. I'm going to post my email again, Gail at lipedemasimplified.org. Let me put that across the bottom as soon as I find it. Here we go. It's Gail at lipedema hyphen, don't forget the hyphen, simplified.org, and put in the subject line mailbag. And then I will take a look at it. I will share some of the emails I get from that on this particular broadcast on Tuesdays. I do have to let you know that next Tuesday is my morning broadcast. And so instead of an evening broadcast, I'll have a morning broadcast on the fourth Tuesday of the month. I have a morning broadcast, so I can make sure that people from South Africa and Europe can, come to the live. So we do try to accommodate as many people as we can. So with that said, I'm going to put Carrie's email address back up there so that if you want to contact Carrie, there's her email. And I would love to, I have to wrap this up. I see there's some more stuff coming in, but I do need to wrap this up. Carrie has children, and I have a date. So
Oh. So my date's to go make breakfast for my children. Your date's actually going somewhere.
Yeah,
and doing something fun.
and I'm gonna go bowling. So, which is a rarity. We hardly ever get out, and we hardly ever have a date, and so we're gonna have a date. But we all have a good day. So Carrie, I'm going to end this with, if there is one thing that you would like, one message you would like echoed around the world, what would that be?
Be kind to yourself. This condition can lead us to lots of, chatter in our minds that our life doesn't quite look how we want it to look. And just be kind and gentle to yourself. Your body, it may not be doing all the things that you want it to, but it's doing a lot that you do want it to. And I think we just need to show it some love and to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carrie. I appreciate you being here. And I always add on to that. Yes, you be kind to yourself. You're not alone, and there is hope. And
sure.
we're gonna go through this together. With that, know that my love is with you, and we shall see you. We shall see you next week.
Sounds great. Bye.